Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 260. As always, I am one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined today by the Deadpool and Wolverine of LA, Jesse and Alex.
Oh, God. You know what that oh God was?
Relief?
No.
Oh.
What the oh God was realizing in real time that when these outsiders listening to us look in and they think about which one of us is Deadpool and which one of us is Wolverine, even though my love for Wolverine as a superhero goes so deep. I own every comic that he's ever been in for 35 years. I'm Deadpool.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, completely.
I'm glad you guys both agree and just understand where you're both at.
No, he's Deadpool.
It sucks. Between the two of us, somehow I make Jesse into Wolverine.
You know what I've also realized? That is the reason why you're Deadpool?
Huh.
For some reason, you have lined us up, or maybe this is Mathis. We look like the bars on a cell phone signal.
Like in terms of vibe?
That was cute, is all I was saying. Now I've adjusted my camera and it's no longer cute. The moment has passed, which is something a Wolverine would do. He'd be like, come on, bub, let's get to the podcast and not advertise like shameless whores.
Yeah, you're in the universe where Wolverine was a podcaster and never actually had any mutant powers.
He'll cover his Australian accent by breathing through his teeth outward.
I don't want to be on the podcast, bub.
Hey, listen, whatever works.
Yeah.
Hey, audience, let me break the fourth wall real quick. Isn't it crazy how I always do this in every episode, but yet somehow Mike was able to transition into me doing it? And then even now, this meta, just mind-blowing Deadpool-esque moment is now also...
Hold on, I can do meta too. Hold on. X-Files.
I'm the Deadpool. Go to patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod and pay us money so that we keep making the show. And in return, you get great stuff. You get art from Mel that looks like punk show posters. It's dope every single time. It's absolutely... Like, what would you say? Like, would you say it's more like Wicked or more like Twisted?
I'd say it's more radical.
See, no, Mel, like myself, is from New England. It's Wicked Twisted. That's what it is.
It's Wicked Twisted.
Yeah. Mel's on a little vacation for like another month, and then she'll be back, everybody. But don't you worry. She's taking some time to recenter in life.
There's a large body of work.
Huge.
Already present on the Patreon, especially because I'm getting married really soon. And let me tell you something. If anything makes you more aware of your humanity, morality, just brief time you have on this planet, it's getting involved with the wedding industry. So please.
Oh no.
Please support.
What does that mean?
Yeah, that's ominous as fuck.
Yeah, that sounds...
everybody who's gotten married before can understand that if you make a wedding, it's the most stressful thing that's ever happened.
You make a wedding?
Yeah, if you do a wedding and you do it yourself, it's the craziest thing ever, and that's what I'm doing.
If you make a wedding,
I don't know, man.
You want to make a wedding?
He's so close to getting married. I don't think reality for him is fully like in focus.
Yeah, I feel like he's in
it's expensive. It's just expensive to put on a wedding. So please support us this month because I want to continue to keep a roof over my head. That's all I'm saying.
What is the thing that, like, to everyone out there on the subreddit, here's your homework. Obviously, Alex getting married. Mathis is trying to get like aliens to probe him or whatever.
Yeah.
But what do you think I should sell out for? What should be the Jesse Cox thing that I keep saying every time?
Money.
Like, what's the thing you want me to do?
It's been money.
Y'all need to go to Patreon and support us because fill in the blank. What is the thing that you think I need?
Jesse needs money for subscriptions to dating services.
For years, you've offered up your own belief system for money.
And your own single life as well, many a time.
Yeah, but that clearly didn't happen. That didn't happen. So what is the one thing that would get people in the door? Jesse Cox, like, tasteful nudes? Like, what is the thing?
Ooh.
You tell me. Let me know.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I want to just put the bullshit aside for 1 second. If there's one of us on this show who is the Wolverine of the show, it's Jesse. If there's somebody on the show whose fan base will buy nudes of him, between the three of us, it's actually definitely Jesse.
Absolutely correct.
You're right, baby. You're right.
Patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod. That's all I'm saying.
It would be tasteful, yet a little nasty.
Just like this episode. Isn't that right, Mathis?
I don't know if tasteful is any of this, guys. I have been on Reddit reading the comments, laughing hysterically because I'm like, yo, I feel the same. To everyone who was like, Jesse, I was actually doing laundry and cleaning my house while you said you can turn it off if you want. And I'm like, I would have. If I didn't have to be here, I would have left too.
The best post was the one that was like, there I was playing Smash Brothers. And I had to pause the game because this wrecked me.
So
that was the winner. That was my favorite one. That was the winner. That was very funny.
And to the ones that are like me who have been like, they're like, I've been a fan of true crime forever. This did nothing to me. I'm with you. That's why this is hilarious to me, because the two of you, like when I built a foundation of true crime, that was like one of the first things I said when I gave you the heavy hitter people that people know the most. This is what I meant when it was time to step into like the deep end a little bit. This time moving into the crazy fucking shit that's out there.
If you get up close to Mathis, he has the eyes of a great white shark. Just if you get up close, they look like
Anthony Starr.
They look human, but then when you get close, you see the sharks.
Am I the Homelander? I hope not. I don't want to be the Homelander.
When we are done filming, we get a little printout thing, and the printout is from the program we use to film, and it's an advertisement, I think, for something like for some kind of service they have. But anyway, they do this thing where they take a screenshot of the stream, and they put it in a little picture to show you like what it would look like. I don't know if I've shown you guys this. This is the exact image that I saved last time that we got. I just sent it to you on your phones.
Oh my God.
Look at our faces. It so perfectly encapsulates everything that we went through. Mathis looks like he is telling a demonic tale. Alex looks disgusted, and I am completely dead inside.
I look like I'm fighting off a yerk from Animorphs inside of my ears.
It's when we're done with this, I'm going to post that to the Reddit because it is
holy shit,
one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Do you think this show has changed who you are on a fundamental level from 5 or 6 years ago?
Me? No.
Good.
No, maybe Alex. Alex, I've never seen that face. I've never seen him so disgusted in my life.
It looks like I'm like about to sneeze, or I like just like the spit hasn't even left my mouth.
It's
part
really
of this era of the sneeze.
I'll try to throw it up on the Patreon post with this episode. I'll try to remember to download it, put it up. It's great.
Oh yeah, no, I'm uploading it to Reddit the minute we're done here.
Consider that to be your trigger warning for this episode. If you didn't like last episode, guess what? You're not going to like this episode, except for maybe the last 5 minutes where it all ends.
Oh yeah, and in honor, quote unquote honor of Albert Fish, I just before this episode, because I knew it was going to be crazy, I fucked up my tooth or something on purpose, so that I could ride the pain just like he does when he stabs himself in the dick and lights his ass on fire. So
that's what he told us verbatim. He said, "I hurt my tooth because I'm too cowardly to stab my own dick." Is what he said.
That's what I said. I yelled it, and
word for word. Yeah,
and blood started flecking onto the webcam.
He was too cowardly to stick a needle in his balls, so he stuck it in his taint instead.
What?
That was last episode. You already forgot?
I
didn't know it was about cowardice that he did. I just thought he did it because he did it.
It also turned him on. So this episode is going to be dark, but it's going to be the last episode of Albert Fish. There's a lot of content Albert Fish that could be 3 episodes, but I don't think it's worth 3 episodes.
I don't think I could last 3 episodes, bro. I would be worn out.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
For levity, I'm going to say it early enough that like later we forget. I'm just going to suggest, I hope this guy dies at the end of the story and that he's not just like alive and he's like a college professor now, which is part 1 of this.
He made it. He made it to his 60s.
Yeah. So when he dies,
is it late 1800s, man? There's a really hard time catching these people. There's nothing. What do? You just listen to neighbors go, and you know why he got the nickname the Gray Man and the Boogeyman? Because that's what they described when they saw him. He was just so plain. Like, and it's 1886. What are you going to do?
He looks like a Jeff of the day. Okay, look, here's what I'm saying though. When he dies, try and remember and say,
yes.
Or I guess you could say, now he sleeps with the fishes.
I'll try my damnedest.
Yeah, just try. Yeah,
just try and see if I can remember.
We're gonna. Yeah, that's just a fun little game we're gonna play. Yeah.
All right. So time for the final part of Albert Fish. Now, when we last left off, our dearest Mr. Fish, he was finally a single man. Now, remember that his wife that he was with and married with for 18 years left him for a handyman by the name of John Straub, and she ran off with him while leaving him with all 6 of his kids.
I don't know how I feel about leaving with the kids thing, but I am happy she got out.
Well, here's the thing, and I'll bring it up again later in the episode as it'll be important, but his kids were never abused in that way by their father. Now,
sure, but if she knows he's bad, her ditching the kids there seems like not a great parenting choice.
It's like she seems like she's just ditching like that entire life and just moving on with her.
Pretty much, that's exactly it. She was like, you know what? Bye.
Well, I mean, it might have been so bad. You know how there's one of those things like it's very tropey, but it's like when I look into their eyes, my children remind me of him, like that kind of thing. So maybe she just couldn't handle it. Still not great parenting, but
no. And then he started moving in on those married, or rather divorced singles meeting each other. He met a woman who, after 10 days of buck, how many hands up, potato sacks over, and then the game with
potato sacks over sucks. That name sucks. Did we discuss how bad of a name that is?
Yeah, potato sacks over is a really nasty kind of like
potato sacks over. That's like like a memo during the like 1997 like scout like father-son picnic.
Yes.
Potato sacks.
You received that in the telegram office.
It's all about the three-legged race now. Yeah.
Potato sacks over.
And don't forget about the last game that he just didn't give a name to, where it was just sticking sewing needles under fingernails until he couldn't anymore.
You know, if he lived today, he'd call it Salad Fingers, and I would be like, damn, that's good. That's good. Salad Fingers, that's good.
I'd call it the very bad game, or the game you should not ever play for any reason.
Never.
Yeah.
And then at the end of every get together, he would go into the bathroom, put his burn a pile of toilet paper, and put his clothes on and leave. And then she married him. Didn't last long. Lasted like 2 weeks. Then she was like, "Nope, God, can't do this." And then they divorced. So that was just the kind of how the last episode ended. So now we're picking up in the summer of 1922. Young Albert Fish Jr. and his brothers were enjoying a carefree afternoon of football in their yard at a Worthington cottage that Albert would rent and take his kids to semi-often. It's around this time in the early 1920s that Albert Fish's religious fanaticism, where God started speaking to him more, really, really fucking flared.
He had a God flare up? Dude, that happens. That happens sometimes.
Yeah, no shit, man. It's scary when it happens.
I think that happened in Breath of Fire 2.
While the kids were playing with the ball, his son glanced up to a nearby hill to see that his father was actually standing in a nearby apple orchard with his right arm raised high into the sky, screaming a repeating phrase saying, "I am Christ.
Oh.
I am Christ.
Oh.
I am Christ."
Oh.
Over.
Finally, something relatable.
Yeah. Over and over and over again. His kids kind of described it as a disturbing sight.
No.
Or something we're going to see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's saying it lightly. I was kind of disturbing when he did that.
It was a little bit disturbing. Like, not, it was a little.
They're looking at each other like, yeah, you know what? I would say it was disturbing. Yeah, it was disturbing. Yeah, disturbing.
Well,
they're all saying yeah, that was quite disturbing.
To the kids, their father had always been what they considered a peculiar man that was prone to unusual behaviors.
Very peculiar, unusual, disturbing.
Grow up in the trauma, like that's all you know, and it becomes your every fucking day.
That's true. I'm certainly not actually blaming these children. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No. But like, to give you an idea, like as to the why in the future, none of these kids ever went public with any of this until the trial happened. They kept all of it to themselves.
No one would ever expect someone to do that. Yeah.
They didn't know his father was out murdering people, but when they learned that was happening, they also weren't super surprised.
Sure. But most people don't think the worst of people.
Yeah.
Most people, even if you're like the absolute craziest, they're just like, yeah, he's a little weird. He's a little strange. And then when you're like, oh no, that guy was eating people, that does explain the bodies in the fridge.
Oh no.
Thank you to today's sponsor, Ghostbed, for sponsoring today's episode. Ghostbed provides high quality and super comfortable award-winning mattresses crafted in the United States and Canada. And did you know that 60% of US adults report being way too hot when they're trying to sleep, like me, who sweats like I'm in the middle of hell every single night? And that's why they design all their products with cooling features, including my pillow that I've been using goddamn forever. It's amazing. And their beds are equally as cool, helping you sleep all night. Even better, it's a family-owned business that's been around for 20 plus years. They have over 60,000 five-star reviews, and they have patented cooling technology that's exclusive to Ghostbed's mattress for comfort and support that you won't find anywhere else. Never mind the 20 plus year warranty, which is 2 times the industry standard, and their 101 night at-home sleep trial, just to make sure it's all for you. With 5 different mattress types, all designed to help you sleep deeper, longer, cooler, and more comfortably, might as well check out the Ghostbed Luxe. It is the most popular and features their signature Ghost Ice cooling tech with 7 layers of comfort and balanced medium feel. And if you're not sure what to get, all you have to do is head over to their website and take their mattress quiz, answer a few questions about your sleeping style and preferences, and they'll match you up with their best match. And finally, our listeners are getting 50% off site-wide for a limited time, so definitely check that out. Visit ghostbed.com/chill with code CHILL at checkout. That's ghostbed.com/chill with code CHILL for 50% off site-wide. A little later in this year, 2 of his sons that were living with him had returned back home to the apartment that they were sharing. All but one, the eldest Albert, had left by now. He was 18. He moved out at 18.
They're not all
went
called
to live
Albert,
on his
are
own.
they?
No.
Albert
They're like,
1,
there's a
2,
Eugene,
3.
there's, Albert Jr.
Young Albert, middle Albert, old middle Albert, young middle Albert.
They call him Old Bert.
Old Bert, Elder
Yeah,
Bert.
that's his organic nickname that his siblings
Right.
picked for him.
Yeah.
Oh, Old Bert.
2 of the sons were returning back to their apartment that they were sharing with their father at the time, and they saw when they returned home that his bedroom door was wide open. And their father, the Elder Bert, Albert Fish, was simply sitting there.
Elbert?
Elder Bert.
Come on.
The
The Air Tree Bert.
Air Tree Bert. He was, with his bedroom door wide open, he was sitting there sticking sewing needles into many of his squishier bits.
Hey, all right, Mrs. C.
Yay. When they understandably, urgently confronted him about what he was doing, because they had not seen him do this before. He said it was what Jesus said that he had to be doing at this time. This was his job.
He just likes to go for Jesus. It's like when your shitty uncle who gets drunk at Christmas, at some point, he's gonna set it off. Where he's like, it's the poor people that are doing it, and you're like, oh, okay, all right.
Now,
He just goes to
right.
Jesus when he gets
Yeah.
in trouble. He's like, no, you can't touch me. Jesus told me. Jesus said I could do this. Back off.
I mean, you're not wrong at all.
Then he wraps himself up in a fucking rug or whatever, and screams
Yeah, he
out
turned himself
Jesus.
into a human burrito man, according to on the orders of Saint John the Apostle specifically.
This guy sounds like a real jerk.
That was earlier though.
Yeah.
But this particular instance where the 2 sons walked in on him sticking needles in himself happened. This was the last straw, and so the 2 brothers took their father.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I can't. The idea of there you are at the heavenly gates. And there John waits for thee and says, Lo, wrappeth thine self up in a rug like a burrito. Let thy be the beans and the meat and the cheese of thine own man, Rito. And you're just like, yes, of course, whatever you that's where he went.
He was like, this food might be a little bit before your time, but your kids will love it.
Yeah, that's where this man went. He was like, yeah, he said, make me a burrito, and so here I am.
That was the invention of the burrito.
He never
Yep.
asked these voices what lesson he was supposed to be learning here.
Right, of course. Why? Why bother?
Why ask when it's from such high authority?
That's true.
Why
That's
question?
True. Questioning God, being a doubting Thomas is dangerous.
Honestly,
Mhm.
it seems like he learned that the rule was that nothing beats God. And so he just invokes God.
Living in a time where that was undeniably the more dominating kind of thought
Yeah,
in
that'd be
general.
crazy if that
Like
happened
some
today.
kind of goblin.
Yeah,
just
definitely not
invoking-
happening today. No.
Not like this. I mean, not every day, not a lot, not in this fashion that often these days. Well, comparatively, it's a lot, but you know what I
Are
mean.
you saying? Hold on. Are you saying that I could get? Hold on. Whoa, guys! I have an idea. What
Okay.
if we said God wanted us to be rich, and instead of
Yeah.
doing Patreon, we just made a church and said
Jesse.
that God bestowed His wishes on us, and we can get money out of it? He doesn't do murder. Sometimes.
Jesse, I'm about to blow your mind right now. I'm about to blow your mind right now.
Wait a minute.
After a quick Google, I've discovered
So the boys at this incident of pincushioning himself, this was the last straw for them. So they took their dad.
And they didn't believe the excuse? They didn't buy it?
The excuse, whether they bought it enough, just wasn't enough either way. It just wasn't good enough.
All right.
So what they do with him, instead of taking him to an insane asylum or something along those lines, they took them to their eldest brother who was living on his own and had him live with him.
Dude, men made it out. And they were like, you got to take care of dad. That is some elder brother bullshit.
Wait. Okay.
That is almost like a movie.
He's about 19 when he gets dropped with his eldest son, now living together in a small flat on 74th Street in New York.
He's 19. Wait, what are you talking about? Who's 19? The son.
Eldest son is about 19 when he's getting dropped off. Yeah, when the dad is being dropped off, who's in like his 30s, late 30s at this point.
Okay, all right.
So he gets fucking stuck with them. And so we fast forward a few years to 1929, while Albert Jr. was living with his father in that small apartment. One afternoon, while in the kitchen and his father was out, and his dad really enjoyed going to the movie theaters. He was unemployed for the most part, so he'd just go to the movies all the time. And Albert Jr. was in the kitchen.
I do that, and I have several jobs. Maybe I'm just wild.
I was about to say, like, I'm thinking the entire time the man's unemployed, he still has movie money. Like, that is a different existence.
Yeah, that was like you had to just put like a paperclip in the box and you could go sit down.
So his son, while he was home in the kitchen, accidentally stumbled upon a pair of crude, homemade paddles tucked away, hidden behind the kitchen sink. The paddles were about 2 feet long, covered in finishing nails that stuck out about an inch from the paddles, which were stained with what appeared to be dried blood.
So his dad brought them with him?
Made them there. He'd been living with them we moved forward for a few years.
Okay.
He's been living with his eldest son. He made them while he was living there within the past 5 years, essentially.
What the?
Yeah. Alex, go ahead, man. What's up?
I was just whispering what the fuck to myself. That's all. That's the depth of this.
No worries. And so when Father Fish returned home at around 6:30 this evening.
I'm imagining Nemo's dad.
A really, really kinky Nemo's dad. He confronted his dad about it. And initially, the dad was a bit sheepish and embarrassed about what he'd found until he eventually told his son and admitted, I use them on myself. I get these feelings that come over me, and every time they do, I have to torture myself with those paddles.
What the shit?
Well, look, that's okay. Like, if that's where we left it, you know what I mean? Like,
agreed.
Like, if you could verbalize something like that, I got no problem with somebody who wants to beat the shit out of themselves for kicks, right? Like, who does it hurt?
Do whatever your body's your own.
I get the sense because that's like a sus part 2 of this. If that's the only crime that we get is that he spanked himself.
That's it. That's all he got. What's weird is that he left him in the kitchen and not in his bedroom, which he had.
So it was like a play. So it was like, he was like,
yeah, part of me thinks he was like the game of his son maybe finding them, but never finding them.
What do you think of that?
Yeah.
What do you think of those?
But he was all like, it's so fucking, yeah, it doesn't make any damn sense.
What do you think about this? Oh, those? I don't know. Oh, those? Oh, those old things?
Hey, Albert Jr. was disturbed, but he just fucking kept his mouth shut about it. Because he knew his father had quote unquote eccentricities. All his kids knew it. Well, and so he was just like, you know what? Just fuck it. I'm just gonna move on. And he just never fucking brought it up with anybody or talked about it until court hearings, obviously afterward. We discovered later that this was, at least at first, actually correct in that he was being truthful, that it was for him a form of self-punishment. Fish was administering this to himself for all the impure thoughts and crimes that he had committed up to this point. We talked about some of them last episode.
This reminds me of one of the other killers that you did a long time ago. Maybe the guy in the apartment.
The crazy painter guy that
he didn't have a similar, he liked to punish himself in that way.
Yeah, he truly blamed his dick for it, and he tried to cut his own dick off to stop it from happening. But he couldn't.
Well, this guy just turned another person's dick into one of those little Japanese hot dog octopuses.
Yes, he did. And the other problem is with Fish is that while it may have started as punishment, beating himself made him hard as fuck. and he
What?
enjoyed.
Why did you describe it like
Yeah, why was that the way you
beating himself
described
made himself hard as fuck.
Wait,
so fucking hard.
You're gonna
Dude, it's
understand-
raw as hell.
You're gonna
Yeah,
understand
dude.
why maybe I use that terminology when we go into some of the other things he got discovered doing.
I don't think I will, buddy. I'm gonna let you know. I don't think that's true.
If you tell me he starts running around knocking people out cold with his boner, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Oh God, no. Yeah, he loved it. Remember, he enjoyed receiving pain and giving pain. Like, so whatever may start out as punishment quickly turned into just something he did because he fucking loved it. And he got off doing it. And this punishment quickly turned into just another weird kink for him. Moving into a year later, into December of 1930, just a week before a significant court case had concluded, an elderly man resembling a forlorn janitor was committed to Bellevue Hospital psychiatric ward for a 10-day observation period. The man was frail, quote unquote, frail with watery eyes and a drooping gray mustache, who had been arrested earlier for sending, quote, non-mailable matter through the U.S. Post Office. His letter was deemed so vile and obscene that the contents within were considered unfit for even court records. Of course, we're talking about Albert Fish, a man who discovered a new kink that he really enjoyed in 1930. This wasn't his first offense either, as you quickly rack up a history of sending obscene letters through the mail. Albert Fish's weird habit of writing these letters can actually be traced back, according to him, to an incident in the summer of 1929, which marked the beginning of this new unsettling behavior.
Albert, if you send the letters, it's sexual assault. It's not a kink.
Yeah.
It's sexual assault.
But according to Fish, kinky.
What?
He loved it. He got off on this shit.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. During this time, in 1929, he actually had a brief time of employment as a handyman and a painter at a Harlem sanitarium operated by Dr. Robert B. Lamb.
Did he go overalls only again?
No, I don't think he was allowed to wear just overalls when he was working for a doctor, like right there. But one evening, Dr. Lamb's chauffeur made a shocking discovery in the sanitarium garbage: a cache of dirty letters. These letters were filled with explicit and perverse content and were a source of morbid fascination for the chauffeur. So that night, the chauffeur decided to share his discovery with a group of people who included Albert Fish. He was like, whoa, fucking look what I found, basically. And then he gathered for their usual kind of they all had an evening card game that they did with the chauffeur and all these other workers. And that's
so he just broke it out and was like, by the way, look what I found.
Look what I found. Yeah, digging through the garbage. And so as the chauffeur read the letters aloud, Fish became rapt in his attention, just listening intently. The explicit descriptions, the taboo nature of the content seemed to awaken something in him. And so the letters detailed various acts of perversion.
Oh, they weren't his.
No, these were found by the chauffeur.
This is the superhero origin story.
Yes, this is just like his piss and shit eating fascination that a young boy gave him. This is another weird kink that somebody else.
Wait, so this just hold on. I was with Alex. I thought that these were letters that he had wrote.
No. I'm telling you. So he did write letters, and then I did a time rewind to the origin. So he got brought in 1930, and I again went back to 1929.
Like that episode of Seinfeld. Yeah.
He was having a card game with other workers that he was working at a sanitarium for a doctor with. And in that card game, a chauffeur pulled out all these dirty letters he found he dug up in the garbage, and he began reading them. And they're like raunchy, like, you would think for the time, some like really raunchy shit. And Fish loved it. He was like mega listening intently. He fell in love with this shit during the card game. That's
like when I read the last page of The Great Gatsby, so I get it.
The letters, like I said, detailed various acts of like perversion, even sadomasochism, themes that would later become more central to Fish's own writings. The experience of hearing these letters read aloud had a profound effect on Fish. It wasn't just the content that intrigued him, but it was also the reaction of the other men in the room while they heard it for the first time. The combination of shock, disgust, and fascination that these letters elicited seemed to resonate with Fish on a weird level, and he found himself drawn to the idea of expressing his own dark and twisted fantasies in a similar manner.
That's why I'm on the Chilluminati podcast.
That's how we got Alex here. Yeah.
That's it. It's literally it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So he started writing essentially his own like dark X-rated fan fictions and then mailing them out.
He'd write it like, "Hey, I'm gonna like come touch your boobies," and like send it to the person that he's writing about.
I got an example. I'm going to make one of you read. Don't worry.
God damn you.
Good.
Fish began writing his own letters filled with explicit and grotesque descriptions of sexual acts, violence, and perversion. And he often posed in these letters as a successful Hollywood producer or a wealthy businessman, using these personas to try and lure in like victims for the letters and whatnot. He went by many aliases, but his real name, obviously being Albert Fish, many people believed he was a member of America's most distinguished families. So he began writing these letters and
wait, he submit them to people?
So he would get, again, using the married divorce list of things, he'd get addresses, send them as under fake names and send them to them. And then he would have like responses and he would hope to like hook them into a lettering chain where he could write more and more and more disturbing shit. And
like
then,
So he's, hold on. My man was just like cold calling, like.
yes, 100% correct. He's cold
calling
calling of the
porn.
1920s. Yes.
Yeah.
Cold calling like violent, like sadomasochistic porn to people he never saw or knew. Just knowing that them reading it, much like him shitting in the homes of those women that he would go to, knowing they would have to clean it up and that got him off. It's the same thing where like knowing that they were going to read it, remembering the reactions of everybody around the poker table, knowing that was going to be their reaction was enough to like get him fucking like, again, horny as fuck. Like he loved that shit.
This has like big I send my dick to ladies energy. You know what I mean?
Yep. And that's literally what it is.
Yeah.
And by this point in 1928, he had been arrested 1929 rather, he had already been arrested 3 times for larceny within 6 weeks.
How is that not like go to jail now?
I mean, good goddamn question. I don't know. Like
3 times for larceny in 6 weeks? That guy's a criminal. He's up. He's done.
Yeah. I mean, he just kept blaming it on like voices and shit and God's orders. So in 1929 is when he began mailing these obscene letters to women whose names he obtained from those sources, including matrimonial agencies and even newspaper classifieds. And one memorable incident stemmed from a classified ad, though it had occurred several years earlier. In his letters, Fish, like I said, often posed as a Hollywood producer, offering large sums of money and affection to women willing to perform certain services for him, or a fictitious teenage son named quote unquote Bobby, which would never happen. He never wanted them to actually come over. There was no son named Bobby. It was a character he created that he used in these letters.
He just wanted them to see it.
Correct. And so in these letters describing these things, I'm going to give you a letter he sent. Now, this is entirely fake. He didn't do any of this. This is one of his like slasher fiction, like whatever you want to call this shit. Like it's like nasty porno X-rated fan fiction. I'm going to throw it in the chat here. This is an excerpt directly from Deranged.
I wish you could see me now, Fish wrote in one letter. I'm sitting in a chair naked. The pain is across my back, just over my behind. When you strip me naked, you will see a most perfect form. Yours, your sweet honey of my heart. I can taste your sweet piss, your sweet shit. I'm so glad this is coming out of my mouth. Great. You must pee in a glass. Fucking shit. You must pee in a glass.
Get those AI trainers ready, folks.
This is like when you see a dude's like message over like Discord and it gets leaked and you're like, really, bro? This is what you wrote, dude? This is what you wrote? This man wrote, I see, you must pee in a glass and I shall drink every drop of it as you watch me. Tell me when you want to. And I assume number two?
Tell me when you want to do number two.
Yeah, no, read that again. Read that sentence again.
Tell me when you want to number 2.
No, we want to do number 2. You're missing out on the do.
Oh boy. Well, tell me when you want to do number 2. I will take you over my knees, pull up your clothes, take down your drawers, and hold my mouth over your sweet honey fat ass and eat your sweet peanut butter as it comes out fresh and hot. That's how they do it in Hollywood. That's how they do it in Hollywood, baby.
Holy shit.
To another woman.
Do not warn. You should put a warning at the beginning of this episode not to start playing Smash Brothers until it's over.
To another woman, Fish explained that his only son, Bobby, who had been crippled by infantile paralysis,
again, a fake character entirely,
needed frequent spankings with a cat o' nine tails for his own good. Fish assured his correspondent that Bobby did not wet or dirty his clothes or bed. He described the specific process of unbuttoning Bobby's pants for the toilet and explained how to administer spankings. In September 1930, Fish sent one of his obscene letters to a professional housekeeper he found through the New York World Situations Wanted section. Mrs. E. Solari, I almost thought that was about to say Mrs. E. coli. I swear.
Kind of like looks a lot like it's about to, yeah.
Yeah. Mrs. E. Solari of 245th East 40th Street turned the letter over to the police, which honestly, the only smart thing to do.
Yeah. That's exactly what I would do if somebody said I must pee in a glass.
I don't like when you're about to be like, we'll get to that in a second, because I know you're about to be like, the police looked at it and were like, this doesn't seem to be anything. Oh.
They offered to suck the peanut butter themselves.
Actually, no. It's not going to be that, actually, I promise. It's actually not bad.
All right. Despite using the pseudonym Robert Fisk, Fish included a return address, leading to his arrest. He was detained before Thanksgiving and sent to Bellevue for psychiatric observation. So this goes back. So you did a time jump on us.
Yep.
After the court, social worker deemed his mental condition questionable.
He had believed so thoroughly that the woman he was messaging that letter with actually was into what he was into, that he put his own return address on it the only time he ever did it. And that's what got him arrested. He wasn't putting his return address on any of the other letters, but he, for some reason, was convinced that this woman would be really into it. And so he just, I guess, convinced himself that it would be fine.
He got so horny that he went crazy.
He did, yeah.
He forgot about what was real. Yeah.
Exactly. He couldn't think straight. So Fish had been at Bellevue for just over a week when Dr. Attilio LaGuardia, a young psychiatrist, interviewed him. LaGuardia began by asking Fish when he started writing obscene letters, to which he said, last year, about June. And there's a whole interview. Who wants to be Fish and who wants to be the doctor?
I mean, I'm clearly Fish now, so...
Oh, hey, look, if you want to do it, be my guest.
Look, once you say I want you to drink my pee-pee, you're kind of Fish.
So last year about June is what he said, and you can pick up right after that.
Fish replied, avoiding eye contact and picking at a sword on a scalp.
How did you come to write these letters? LaGuardia asked.
Fish explained that during the summer of 1929, he had worked as a handyman and painter at a Harlem sanitarium run by Dr. Robert B. Lamb. One night, Lamb's chauffeur found a stash of dirty letters and read them aloud to the group of men, including Fish. Hearing them inspired Fish to start writing his own. Before that, LaGuardia inquired, had Fish... I guess this is you. Before that, LaGuardia had inquired, had Fish ever had the desires before?
We have the back and forth coming up right here, basically.
Fish shook his head emphatically. No, sir, not at all.
LaGuardia noted this and asked, when you wrote these obscene letters, how did you feel?
I had no particular feeling, Fish whispered.
Did you feel that you had to write these letters? LaGuardia continued.
Fish shrugged, saying, it was just sort of a habit.
LaGuardia questioned Fish about his marital status, previous legal troubles, and memory, having him count backwards from 100 by sevens, which Fish did flawlessly. LaGuardia then asked about Fish's last sexual intercourse.
I literally, guys, I'm going to let you know, this is honest to God. If we were anywhere and I said to you, hey, count backwards from 100 by 7, and you did it flawlessly, I would be like psychopath.
Yeah, Jesus, dude. Yeah. When I read that, I'm like, I don't think I could do that at all.
Like, in my mind, flawlessly is he starts at 100 and he's like 93, and he starts like
bing, 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 bing,
yeah,
bing, bing, bing. Yeah.
That's, to me, I'm like, that's scary as shit. That's
a computer. Yeah.
Yeah. If you had to think about it, I'd be like, all right, no, you're cool.
I could do it with a little bit of like human time.
Sure.
Yeah, yo, just do some, you got to take a few seconds for math, but if he's just able to do it, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I'd be like,
So LaGuardia then asked Fish about his last sexual intercourse.
Right. 2 years ago, Fish responded after pondering.
Have you had any desire since that time? LaGuardia asked.
No, Fish replied, still avoiding eye contact.
Have you been a steady churchgoer? LaGuardia asked.
Fish smiled for the first time during the interview, saying proudly, yes, sir, Episcopal Church.
LaGuardia then asked how Fish reconciled his actions with his faith.
There's no comparison, Fish said, his smile fading.
And that's basically... After the interview, LaGuardia's notes were compiled into a report by Dr. Manus S. Gregory, head of Bellevue Psychiatric Department, and forwarded it to Judge Frank J. Coleman of the U.S. District Court of Southern District of New York. And during Fish's observation period here at the hospital, Gregory noted that Fish had been, quote, quiet and cooperative, with no signs of delusion or hallucinatory experiences, which actually pointed me to a term I had not heard before this, which was paraphrenia. I don't know if you know what that is, but when I looked it up, it's not an official DMS or like the mental health disorder, but it's essentially schizophrenia, the same like hallucinations and insane shit, but with no outward symptoms. Like you still put on a totally normal face. Like you're able to live a normal life. You're able to keep all the hallucinations to yourself for the most part and don't really like.
So you're just not telling anyone, basically?
You're able to keep it to yourself. Yeah. For whatever reason, you're able to like just not put out any physical like open symptoms of like schizophrenia.
So it's like us sometimes playing horror games where we see the scare, but we're like, look,
yeah.
I got, you know what? I got stuff to do. I can't be scared of this.
We're just tripping. You're just kind of walking around tripping.
Yeah, it pretty much.
Like doing edibles at Disneyland, but there's no edibles.
Yes. And you think that you think the mountains in Cars Land is real, but then you realize it's fake, and then you question whether the sky is fake too. Yeah, whoever does that.
But in this case, it's Jesus.
Right, correct. So Dr. Gregory concluded that while Fish displayed signs of early senile changes, his mentality was unimpaired, especially for his age. Gregory suggested that Fish's behavior was rooted in sexual psychopathy, manifesting from early life rather than senile dementia. Despite Fish's apparent sexual perversion, Gregory determined that Fish showed no signs of, quote, mental deterioration or dementia, concluding that Fish was not insane at the time. However, his assessment underestimated the depths of Fish's fucked up derangements, and despite his harmless outward appearance, Fish was actually just an extremely dangerous individual who had done a ton of heinous crimes for almost 50 years at this point that he had never been caught for. Like, people just went missing and nobody ever found out. And then when he when he did that to that dude's dick, he literally just skipped town that next day and left him $1.
And no one knows what happened to the guy.
Yeah, we don't have any idea.
That should be that should be like an award-winning like New York Times podcast, is like finding that guy.
That'd be wild if like somebody did find him. I'd be so interested.
It probably would. It would probably take like 3 hours to find.
Yeah, probably. Well, you know. So Fish remained at the hospital for about 30 days, during which he was polite and cooperative, which is very similar to many of the serial killers that end up going to these hospitals. Gacy was remember Gacy ended up like running his for a while. Like he was like in charge.
He became like the like cool guy on campus, but like, like a beloved inmate.
But as the weeks kept creeping on, Fish grew increasingly desperate to get the fuck out of there. And on January 5th, he wrote to his eldest daughter, Mrs. Anna Collins of Astoria, Queens, in a self-pitying tone, asking why none of his children had written him. And since Jesse read it last time, this one will be for Alex to read. This is the letter he wrote.
If he says pee-pee in this, I'm going to be real upset.
I am the only one here who does not receive a letter or a visitor. I've written to you, to Gertrude, Jean, Henry. None of you answer. I am 3 weeks here today. Now, Annie, do this for your poor old father. Write a letter to Dr. Gregory, Bellevue Hospital, as soon as you get this. Ask him in God's name to send me back to court. You know, the sooner I get my sentence, the sooner I am back home. Don't fail me now. Love to you all from Papa. I'm imagining Daniel Plainview now is what's happening. He's turning into, I abandoned my boy!
And shortly after that letter, Fish got his wish. And on January 16th, he was discharged from Bellevue. And a few days later, Judge Coleman put him on probation and released him into the custody of his daughter, Anna. And once again, Fish was back on the loose. Very similar to so many serial killers that, like, they have them, and then they're just like, he's just kind of weird.
Let him go. Let him do a little bit more larceny on the side. He's not hurting anybody. It's just property theft.
Thank you to today's sponsor, Babbel. Hey, you want a new language? You want to learn one? Well, the best way is to uproot your life, drop yourself in the middle of a new country, and figure it out from there. But if you're not ready for that, which, you know, I'm kind of back and forth on, you can still learn a language the next best way. And that's with Babbel. Wasting hundreds of dollars on private tutors is the old school way of learning a new language. Babbel's 10-minute lessons are quick, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, ready to get you talking your new language in 3 weeks. Because talking is the key to really knowing any language. Designed by real people for having real conversations, Babbel gets you talking. And Babbel's tips and tools are grounded in real-life stuff you'll actually need. Everything is focused on conversation, so you'll be ready to talk wherever you go. Don't just take my word for it either. Studies from Yale, Michigan University, and beyond continue to prove Babbel works. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee, so there's no pressure. And here's a special limited-time deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/chill. Bam, easy as that. 60% off at babbel.com/chill, spelled BABBEL.com/chill. Rules and restrictions may apply. Thank you so much to Babbel for sponsoring today's episode. Well, when he initially got captured, however, and got sent off to Bellevue, the cops got full access into Fish's room. In the following year of going there, they went through his entire room, and the police discovered more letters that were hidden under his mattress that he had never sent, as well as a homemade cat o' nine tails whip that he used on himself. Tucked inside a dresser drawer, they found a decaying wiener, like not like wiener like dick, but like wiener hot dog, and a carrot. And one of the officers, one by the name of John P. Smith, looked to Fish because he was with them at the time. Like Fish, this is when he just got caught. And he asked him what he used the whip for. And the old man shrugged and replied, "I like to whip myself with it, though we don't suppose that's any of your goddamn business."
Whatever. Like, yeah, again, same thing. Like, if this is just a guy who's just getting ripped on for whipping himself, it's one thing, but they keep equating this with like the fact that he like murders and mutilates people, which it's so weird.
Yeah. The officer then inquired about what's up with the hot dog and the carrot, to which Albert Fish simply quickly responded, "I stick him up my ass." At least he's straightforward about it.
Hey.
That's when he was then sent off. So after 30 days, it was a few years actually after he was let go, of relative calm for Fish Jr., who was still living with him at this point.
When you say relative calm, does that mean just like every once in a while he'd still just like run around with a hot rag in his ass?
I imagine, nothing weirder than what he's seen. Fish Jr. wasn't the one that walked in on him pinning himself. That was his younger siblings. He hasn't really come across anything other than the letter thing and finding the paddles.
So he doesn't even know? He doesn't even know.
No, he had no idea about the pin thing. The kids did not tell him. The kids did not pass that along.
I guess why would you if you're trying to dump your dad on him?
So we're talking about 4 years of relative calm before the summer of 1934, which kind of brought a resurgence of his father's more disturbing at-home behaviors. Fish Jr. was now 35 years old when he was living with his father in a 4-bedroom apartment. They had actually been living together since 1883 as a whole, and they were now living on Amsterdam Ave on one of the Manhattan's Upper West Side in one of 3 buildings on the block that they were hired to be superintendents of. So they both are superintendents of 3 buildings, of one of which they live in it. And since Fish Sr. was like in his late 50s, early 60s at this point, he mostly just kept to the lighter work. He swept the buildings, he did vermin checks, the kind of easy stuff.
Where are they getting this money?
What do you mean?
How do they have like capital for this?
To get hired? They got hired.
Okay. All right.
They're hired as superintendents. They don't own the building. They just work for the building owners.
I see.
Yeah. And then Fish Jr. did the heavy stuff. He did the painting. He did the plumbing. He did the repair work if it needed to be done. And one afternoon, while Fish Jr. was in the lobby of one of the buildings, painting it at around 4 p.m., a tenant from upstairs ran down the stairs to tell him that a pipe in their bathroom sink had burst and that their room was flooding with water. So he immediately stopped painting, ran up the stairs to his apartment to grab his tools, and as he flung open the door, he was immediately greeted with some strange muffled sounds. Now, his father was always home during the day, so it wasn't super surprising to him that his dad was like home. What was weird was that these noises weren't coming from his father's bedroom, but his. So he crept down the hallway, and the sounds of thuds, slaps, followed by muffled whimpers, got louder and louder until he got to his bedroom door that he saw was just open a crack. And so he curiously peeked in, and what he saw was that his window shades had been drawn, but not enough where the light hadn't still spilled through enough to kind of allow him to see what was going on. And there, standing in the middle of his bedroom, completely naked, was his father. One hand was wildly beating himself off with what he called a quote-unquote swollen dick, and while the other one, his other hand, had one of those nail-studded paddles, and he was reaching behind himself, beating himself with it. And according to Fish Jr., his father was, quote, wild-eyed, panting. With every strike of the paddle, he would jump into the air a little and cry out.
You ever get the feeling that, like,
How long did he watch him?
it's almost too much? You know, like,
Hey, let me hang on. He also goes on to say his face was beet red, sweat pouring down him, while his ass was red like raw meat and bleeding.
That's a quote?
Okay, there you go. That's, testimony.
Why is it so
Descriptive?
so sensually evocative?
I feel like it's like gratuitous for the sake of gratuitous. Like, when reporting this, couldn't they be like, they opened the door and there he was just masturbating? Instead, it's like, so there he was.
Well, we
His
all know.
engorged. And it's like, whoa, what?
Well, have you watched Fox 11? Like, have you ever watched like any of those like When Animals Attack? Or, you know.
No, this is the era. This is just.
I mean, yeah, it's just like a weird.
This is just after the era of Belle Starr, where they literally took everything she did and amplified the violence and sensationalized it. This is the same time period.
Except in this case, it's all legit.
Yes, this is all actually happened.
He actually just really did
Because
all this shit.
of his kids testified as to what they saw.
Can I circle back real quick to the swollen dick?
Yeah.
Are you talking about his actual
He's
dick?
holding his dick really hard and just furiously
Okay, the way
beating
you
it.
said it, you said beating himself off with a swollen dick, and I thought you meant that he had something that he was calling a swollen dick.
No.
Yeah, no, I got it now. We're back.
Yeah, we're back.
So this was just a total out of nowhere surprise, other than seeing those paddles, and he was just like, my 1930s brain cannot compute this, dude. Like zoinks.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And so what he ended up doing was standing there, fucking absolutely traumatized and confused. After a few moments, quietly backed away, got his tools, let his dad just do what he was going to do, and he never told a fucking soul, not even his own siblings.
That's so American.
Just let him go.
Yeah, that's so American.
What would you do? Would you call? I feel like I might call like a hospital.
No, I think I would go, hey, bud. Tick, tick, tick. You good, dude? I'm going to say, I'll be honest. This is a lot for me. I hope you're good. If this is how you play it, that's fine. But hey, maybe we can just chat about this later.
I'd be like, maybe you could do that in your room, Dad, and not my room.
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah. Maybe we move the action to the part of the house where I don't sleep every night. It'd be cool.
Because it's a 4-bedroom apartment they're living in at this time. He has the room.
Yeah.
He has the room.
Yeah.
And then there were just a varying other amount of incidents that Albert Jr. kind of bumped into around this time. There was a black cat incident where one day Albert Sr. brought home a stray black cat, kept it locked in his room for days, refusing to let anyone else see it. Junior could hear the cat meowing and scratching at the door, but his father remained tight-lipped about what he was doing to it. And he just never heard the cat again. No idea what happened to it. Probably not good. Then there were the needles. Albert Jr. then discovered one day, carefully hidden inside a book by Edgar Allan Poe, his collection of needles that he liked to use. They were sewing needles. Their sharp points kind of just slightly caked in blood. The sight of them definitely put Albert Jr. off.
Why not just clean them? Why not just put a little, just put a fucking, a match?
The man didn't even clean his beating paddles, so he's not going to go out of the way to clean each needle meticulously. And then there were the newspaper clippings that he found. Albert Jr. kind of stumbled upon them while cleaning out of his father's room one day. They were articles detailing gruesome crimes, stories of violence and depravity that he thinks were just to fascinate the old man. But I think these clippings were of newspapers
like
reporting
souvenirs,
crimes that he did that he never got caught for, because that is very kind of on brand for serial killers.
The idea of him being discovered in that way, would be exciting to him.
It would absolutely be part of his
based on the letters and everything. Yeah,
exactly correct. But one of the more weird changes that happened in his father didn't have to do with like sexual stuff. At some point, his father's behavior changed in a way that made him insatiable for craving raw meat that he would only eat to coincide with the full moon.
It's like the Liver King.
Yeah, without the steroids. Yeah, I don't. There's no real. We don't really know like what it was.
Okay, I was about to ask. We don't have a reason for that. He just like
no
decided.
Jesus
Yep.
probably like if I had to guess, like probably like St. John the Apostle
told
Jesus.
him.
Yeah, it might have been just like one of those things.
That you are meat. He's like, you are meat. So why, you know?
Yeah.
Negative. I am a meat popsicle.
And so all this kind of added up, and Albert Jr. was starting to become really worried for his father's own sanity and his own well-being overall. And he considered something bad to be happening in the old man's head, and that he didn't know how much longer that he himself, Albert Jr., could take it. He was already contemplating leaving to move out, finding his own place where he could just escape his own dad and just to let his dad just be consumed by his own darkness, essentially.
Do we have any sense of how intense this guy was?
The dad?
Oh, I know he didn't hurt his kids or anything like that, but like, was he like just a hothead asshole who was like always threatening them?
Nope. He was a cool, calm, very collected individual.
And then sometimes they'd find him heaving in his room, smacking himself in the balls.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Again, the outward appearance of normality, while behind the curtains, the man is fucking, his brain is just fucking broken in two.
I'm just trying to like empathize with this human in some way. I'm trying to figure out like what the logic is. And I'm failing to grasp like why, like how this could be.
The other issue was for Junior is that he wasn't getting a lot of sleep because his father started getting plagued with nightmares that would just wake him up with screaming and whining. Just a few nights prior, Junior had been jolted awake by the sounds of violent thrashing and terrified gasps coming from his father's bedroom. So he rushed in to find out what was going on, and there he was, sitting up in bed, drenched in sweat, looking like he'd just seen something horrible. And when he asked, "What's wrong, Pa?" Albert Sr. just shook his head gently, and then he looked around kind of like nervously with his eyes wide, and he said, "Nothing, son, just a bad dream." And part of me thinks maybe he's having some sort of nightmares about his previous murders that he'd committed up to this point. I don't know.
Sure. That feels like some Zach Bagans type stuff though. Like,
yeah, exactly. No, not mean haunting. I meant more like guilt dreams.
No, but that's what I mean. Like we know he had what happened on the outside, right? But we're not going to like, go, could he just be thinking about his murders and having a nightmare because he's worried? And
the reason that I say it may have been that is he goes on to describe his dreams occasionally later on, but a lot of it has a reoccurring theme of a young girl. And the crime that would eventually get Albert Fish caught was actually committed about 6 years prior to 1934, in 1928. This is where we take the turn from the insane hilarity to the insane, this is the monster he was. And we're not going to go over every fucking detailed murder. We went through some nasty stuff in the first episode, but this is the thing that everybody knows Albert Fish for. The man, while he was fucking insane, was unimaginably cruel. And the tragic events that happened on May 25th, 1928, to a young girl when a man by the name of Edward Budd, an 18-year-old seeking employment, placed an ad in the Sunday edition of the New York World. The ad read, quote, "Young man, 18, wishes position in country. Edward Budd," and then he gives his address, 406 15th Street. Albert Fish, who was a sadistic predator, saw this as an opportunity and decided to respond to the ad. Fish disguised himself as a kind and harmless elderly gentleman named Frank Howard. On May 28th, he visited the Budd family at their apartment in Manhattan. Fish told them he was a prosperous farmer from Farmingdale, New York, looking to hire Edward for a job. He regaled them with tales of his successful farm and even mentioned hiring more help, assuring the Budds that Edward would have a secure and well-paid position. Fish's demeanor was so convincing that the Budd family trusted him entirely. Fish I know. This is the time, man. Again, the woman who saw him lighting like his own shit on fire married him.
Well, they haven't been on the episode. They just think he's some guy.
He just
haven't been sitting here listening to the Albert Fish episode for
exactly
2.5 hours or whatever.
But when time traveling is finally unlocked, I want the time traveler to take this episode, go back to 1928, the day before, and give this to Edward Budd, please. Okay, that would be great. So he visited the apartment. He told them about being a prosperous farmer and that he was hiring more help. And then they all trusted him. And after several visits with the household, he noticed that they had children and a family. And so he started bringing small gifts for their kids and further started ingratiating himself within the family to build that trust. And during only a second visit on June 3rd, 1928, Fish claimed he was attending his niece's birthday party and invited their young daughter, Grace Budd, to Edward's 10-year-old sister, which was Edward's 10-year-old sister, to come along. It's a kid's party, man. Hey, why don't you? I'll take her off your hands. We'll go to a party and I'll bring her back when the party's over. He assured the Budds that Grace would be safe and would return that evening, trusting the kindly old man. The Budds allowed Grace to go with him. In reality, Fish had no intention of returning Grace. Instead, he took her to an abandoned house he had previously scouted at 137 West 406th Street in Irvington, New York. And once inside the isolated house, Fish revealed his true, horrifying intentions. He stripped her naked and strangled her. However, the horror didn't end there. He proceeded to mutilate and then cannibalize her body, deriving some weird sadistic pleasure from the act. And after committing this heinous crime, Fish managed to evade capture for years. However, much like his own ego in attaching his own return address to that dumb letter, his own twisted sense of satisfaction from the crime led him to taunt the Budd family. On November 12th, fast forwarding to 1934, nearly 6 years after Grace's disappearance, Fish sent an anonymous letter to her parents. The letter graphically detailed the kidnapping, murder, and cannibalization of Grace, causing immense anguish to the already grieving family. The issue is, when the letter arrived, the mother of Grace was illiterate. She couldn't read. So she had the police read this letter out loud to her.
So she had to hear it.
She had to hear this. And so this is not a pleasant letter. I want to put this forward. There is heavy speculation that this is even true. Much like his other letters that were filled with fabrications and lies, this seems like it may also be filled with a lot more elaboration and lies, but the crime still happened. Whether the cannibalization and all that stuff is true is up to debate because Fish just lived in a fucking broken reality. So This letter is a heavy read. Would you like me to read it, boys? Or would one of you would like to read this?
I will do it.
All right. That's all I need to hear. I have to pick it in, I think, 2 parts because it's just kind of long.
Dude, 2 parts.
Again, he's so confident in this.
Can I just say, for years and years and years and years and years, I've always thought that the news, when they report the news and they leave out like details, I'm like, you're not doing anyone any good by leaving that. Let me just stress to newscasters around the world. Hey, thanks, because this stuff sucks.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
this is not pleasant.
This might be the one. Yeah, this might be the one you could leave out. That's pretty good. Yeah, here we go. Dear Mrs. Budd, in 1894, a friend of mine shipped as a deckhand on the steamer Tacoma, Captain John Davis. They sailed from San Francisco to Hong Kong, China. On arriving there, he and 2 others went ashore and got drunk. When they returned, the boat was gone. At that time, there was a famine in China. Meat of any kind was from $1 to $3 a pound. So great was the suffering among the very poor that all children under 12 were sold to the butchers to be cut up and sold for food in order to keep others from starving. A boy or girl under 14 was not safe in the street. You could go in any shop and ask for steak, chops, or stew meat. Part of the naked body of a boy or girl would be brought out and just what you wanted cut from it. A boy or girl's behind, which is the sweetest part of the body and sold as veal cutlet, brought the highest price. John stayed there so long he acquired a taste for human flesh. On his return to New York, NY, he stole 2 boys, 1 7, 1 11, took them to his home, stripped them naked, tied them in a closet, then burned everything they had on. Several times every day and night he spanked them, tortured them to make their meat good and tender. First he killed the 11-year-old boy because he had the fattest ass and of course the most meat on it. Every part of his body was cooked and eaten except the head, bones, and guts. He was roasted in the oven, all of his ass, boiled, broiled, fried, and stewed. The little boy was next, went the same way. At that time, I was living at 409 East 100th Street, rear right side. He told me so often how good human flesh was, I made up my mind to taste it. On Sunday, June the 3rd, 1928, I called on you at 406 West 15th Street, brought you pot cheese and strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat in my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her. On the pretense of taking her to a party, you said yes, she could go. I took her to an empty house in Westchester I had already picked out. When we got there, I told her to remain outside. She picked wildflowers. I went upstairs and stripped all my clothes off. I knew if I did not, I would get her blood on them. When all was ready, I went to the window and called her. Then I hid in a closet until she was in the room. When she saw me all naked, she began to cry and tried to run down the stairs. I grabbed her and said she would tell her mama. First, I stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death, then cut her in small pieces so I could take my meat to my rooms, cook, and eat it. How sweet and tender her little ass was roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. I did not fuck her, though. I could have had I wished. She died a virgin.
And that letter is a letter that got him caught. Now, how much of that is true? I would wager to guess, barring maybe the actual murder, I don't know. A lot of it could have been just fucking kind of made up. But nonetheless, the letter is one of the most heinous things I've ever read in my life.
I feel like I gotta brush my fucking teeth.
Yeah, right? You feel like you need to fucking go clean your mouth out.
I definitely need to go to the dentist immediately.
The letter, with its horrible details, provided crucial clues that eventually led to Fish's arrest. The envelope had a small hexagonal emblem with the letters NYPCBA, which stood for New York Private Chauffeurs Benevolent Association. This clue helped Detective William F. King trace the letter back to a rooming house where Fish had stayed in on December 3rd, and on December 13th, 1934, Fish was apprehended by the police. During his trial, Fish confessed to the kidnapping and murder of Grace Budd, as well as numerous other crimes. As I said last time, he was found guilty of 15, though the Supreme Court believes that it was upwards of 20 or 30 potential victims that he actually truly had. He was diagnosed with severe psychosis, but the jury found him sane and guilty of premeditated murder. And the reason they found him that way is because he was able to maintain a normal life. Because he was able to put...
He also admitted planning it in the fucking letter.
He desperately tried to come off as insane during the trial with the God stuff and all that stuff. And again, the testimonial of his kids did lean into that. But because he was able to maintain a normal life, because he was able to hide it from people, that to them showed him that, no, this was... He knows right from wrong. He knows like what he's supposed to do and not supposed to do. So fuck that. No, they didn't find him insane. Right. Albert Fish would be sentenced to death and would be executed in the electric chair at Sing Sing Correctional Facility on January 16th, 1936. And there's a little bit of like back and forth that we get from these testimonials. We have a ton of just like the back and forth. And there's one that is, there's a few in there that are actually kind of funny. One from Helen Carlson, who was a Brooklyn landlady in 1927, who had been one of the anonymous recipients of Fish's unwelcome attentions. She ended up testifying on like the first Monday of their trial. So as a woman being asked by a lawyer in court, the first one is the lawyer. They're asking about the substances of the nasty letter that she received anonymously to get it on file that he was actually sending anonymous letters. Who wants to be the lawyer? Alex, you be the lawyer.
Do you recall the substance of the letters? Dempsey asked.
And you're the lady? You're the lady who received the letter, Jesse.
Well, I do, but I don't want to say anything about it.
Dempsey finally prevailed on her to summarize one of the less unmentionable parts of Fish's first letter. Continue, Jesse.
He told me he was going to a lodge,
Miss Carlson said, her voice barely above a whisper,
and he expected to have a lot of things done to him. And one of the principal things would be he would be tarred and feathered. And he wanted me to help him next day to remove all this. He said the lodge allowed him $20 for this procedure and would double it to $40 if I would help him.
The other two letters, asked Dempsey, were they of similar character?
Yes, only worse than that.
Miss Carlson went on to describe the bloody, nail-studded paddles she had discovered in the attic after Fish's eviction, though she shied away from characterizing the little mess she had found on his bedroom floor.
What do you mean by a little mess? Asked Dempsey.
I don't like to say just what it was, Miss Carlson replied. He made some dirt and left it behind the door.
Can you say what kind of dirt it was?
Human dirt.
Number 2, asked Dempsey, according to playground euphemism.
Yes.
And we can leave it right there.
Human dirt, dude.
Human dirt from
That
a
should be the
woman
name of
who
this
was
episode.
afraid of the poop.
Yeah.
The trial did not last long at all, and he would be sitting in jail for approximately a year and a half before he did get put to the electric chair, as I said, and Fish's life ended. It was through these court proceedings we found that the daughters were never privy to any of his weirder proclivities. The brothers never told his daughters about them, and unlike the sons, once the daughters became of age, they got married real fucking quick and like left the house. That's why the sons were the ones that kind of stumbled upon most of his stuff. And that, gentlemen, is the story of Albert Fish.
So I suppose you could say,
fuck,
he sleeps with the fishes.
He is sleeping with the fishes. I literally forgot. I forgot.
Patreon.com/Chilluminati-pod.
Alex has a wedding. Please help him. Boys, how you feeling after that 2-parter?
Terrible. That sucked. That was unpleasant.
Hurt, damaged, changed. No, actually, like there's something about this that's definitely disturbing, and it's more to me like the acts are like on the surface disturbing, like just like you said, Matt. This is not like vexing to me. Like I have, as the host of this show, been exposed to all kinds of acts of violence that I've been desensitized to. It's the picture that you get of the guy as a whole that really fucks me up. Like it's not really any of the one, like the fact that he eats shit or calls it sweet peanut butter or any of that shit. That's just kind of funny in like anecdotal ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, God damn it, dude.
Yeah, he was
like,
fucked up man.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a monster.
Interesting one.
So next week, we'll do something a little bit lighter. I don't know if one of you boys want to take the helm next week or I can, but we'll definitely, whoever has the episode, nice little palate cleanser and kind of reset to homeostasis. Thank you for all of those who made it through both episodes. If you did, you should just let us know on Reddit. If you made it through both episodes, please God, let me know on Reddit.
That's like people who are like, I worked 365 days a year for 7 years in a row, guys. I'm better than you. Like, I don't know that's true.
No, I didn't say it makes you better. It just means
I don't know that getting through this and coming out the other side is like a thing. This is like, sometimes if you ask Grandpa what it was like in the war and he doesn't tell you, there's probably a good reason he ain't bragging.
That's kind of how I would be if somebody asked me what I went over this week on the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
See, this is why I have, because I have to force this knowledge onto other people. So
yeah,
I pay you for it.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to go to patreon.com/Chilluminati-pod to do a mini-sode. There's a brand new Rotten Popcorn episode over there as well. We watched Fire in the Sky, the story of the Travis Walton abduction.
This movie had a budget and a crew. It's pretty crazy. It's crazy what kind of effect that has on a film's quality.
And the abduction scene towards the end of the movie was crazy. It was
long, but crazy.
Go watch it. So yeah, we're right over there right now. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next week. We appreciate you. We love you. Goodbye. Anyway, me and my wife were sitting outside indulging on our porch one night, enjoying ourselves. I needed to go to the bathroom, so I stepped back inside, and after a few moments, I hear my wife go, "Holy shit, get out here." So I quickly dash back outside, and she's looking up at the sky in awe. I look up too, and there's a perfect line of dozen lights traveling across the sky.